Hello world, this is the pod layer proof of concept demo team. Here again, doing what we do, tracking the mojo phenomenon, the human quality phenomenon, and sharing the methodology we use for that and the evidence we've gained so far. So today we're going to be focusing on collaging, making that a main focus right now because there is being able to apply the mojo phenomenon in different ways. One is mojo reading, but that actually takes a lot of time and training, and also you need to take breathers. So we're going to be moving mojo reading to being less times of the year and building up to them like a major kind of feat or push. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But the collaging itself is the best way to get one's mind around the phenomenon, how it has played out in the human species, the story of it. All right, so today we are looking at purifications, the most recent purifications that have been done. Some things all over, but the majority of it is around sensualist males. So kind of expanding, getting more nuance there. All right, introductions, and we'll get started. I am Nai G Coach.
I am Jaini Jadi.
I am Nai G Ben.
And this is Nai G Glenn.
All right.
Okay. Still into the collage.
All right. Is it good sizing? Cool. All right, everyone sees this. Jivi Mario Lopez, and he had been down as a Genii. He has kind of game where he's in the entertainment industry a lot, and so that has affected some of his riffing style. But still here, I can see, particularly after looking at some of the fitness experts, that Jivi-ness really is kind of like more like a model, kind of a Jivi, as compared to some like the bodybuilders or athletes, although he is very athletic, Mario Lopez. So the twinkle in the eye, first of all, the eyes are heavier in general, Vi versus Nai, and then the twinkle that they have that comes from their stimulus register power is more diffuse. It actually doesn't get clearer as they get twinkly. It gets a little more diffuse.
Yeah, I always thought that it was that he seemed to be a little bit different for a Genii. I kind of suspected that he was a Jivi for a little bit too.
Yeah, the soap actors also kind of ripped him a lot as well. All right, go, Johnny.
Okay, so what was he read as before?
Xenai, the size of his head.
Okay.
There's the wideness of the cheeks, kind of.
All right, yeah. So
And his little mouth. That's what it was. Little mouth and those big cheeks.
okay, so Vizi Lawrence Lessig. So a difference between, and in this case, like Coach said, then the larger head, the power head, that is characteristic of a lot of figures in politics and in CEOs, and those are arenas where there are a lot of Xenai, but there are also some Vaiji and Vizi that just naturally have a larger head proportionally versus the rest of their body. Just something we've been noting. But here you can see his eyes have more energy than the rest of his emoting or even his neutralizing. His eyes are that have that focused quality that hunters have, and you can also, he does have Xianzhai, so that would be similar to Xenai, but it doesn't look as localized as you would see with a Xenai. And also you can see the bi-field face of a perception lead, where the eyes are, regardless of the neutralizing or emoting, the eyes seem to be doing their own thing, as opposed to with the Xenai, you'd see that one platelet, like the unifield quality of the bracing neutralizing, and you're not seeing this here. It has a softer look overall because of the eyes. I mean, maybe softer is not the right word.
I think actually that's touching a little bit on the fact that he's subjective compared to the objective.
Yeah.
A little more refrained, the energy.
Yeah.
Overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also noticing he has like finer features, like his chin and his
fingers.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, definitely struck me as a subjective right when I saw him, actually. It's interesting.
All right, so this guy, I'm guessing was read as a Nijai before, or
Correct.
okay. So this is Vijay Emeril Lagasse. Is that right? I don't know.
Yep.
But
Legacy.
so yep, and he was read as a Nijai before, but he's actually a Vijay. You can see that, like a lot of chefs, they do have good interpret power development, but you can see the clear eyes. I think especially in the picture on the right, because he, he's forward facing, he's looking right at you. Picture on the left, he's doing. You can definitely still see the clear eyes, but he's also doing a shy drift. And the Nijai also have this, but you can see that the way his cheeks look, they have more of a fleshiness to them, while they're also the Jez Gather apple cheeks.
Mhm.
All right, so this is Vijay Sean Kingston, who I believe was previously read as a Nijai as well.
Correct.
Right, so yeah, Nijai and Vijay, they're both Jez gatherers, so they have a lot in common with one another in terms of the sort of general physiological cues, but they're, the V and the Ni definitely, and as well as the Nai and the Vi make some differences in terms of the perception powers. Sean Kingston here, like he has more of that, that glossiness to the face, more like a tighter quality, more yang quality to the skin. I feel like I'm noticing that quite a bit. And Nijai, in comparison, they tend to have more of like a vibratory kind of feel to their skin. It's a little bit more yin in that respect. He definitely has more the yang, and his eyes. He does have quite a bit of V use going on, but I feel like I'm seeing quite a bit of Nai actually as well, and that kind of gives him more of like a detached look in his eye. Sort of like he's going underwater, but he's going underwater in terms of like, seeing through things, and as opposed to sort of like looking at details like a Nijai would be looking at. So, yeah, I feel like those are two things I'm noticing quite a bit.
Yeah, because he's got a bit of a narrowed eye in both of those, so he's using the Nai, and it gives that far away quality,
Yeah,
but it doesn't get tight like it does when it's Vi.
exactly. Yeah, it has more of that wariness to it as compared to like the kind of concerned quality that, and more like tighter quality that the Vi has when it gets used. Yeah.
Next up, okay, Zaini Linka. She had been down as a Nizai. I didn't have enough experience with the few Zaini that are in music, but there are a few, such as Taylor Swift being a big one. Okay, looking at that from that, once I kind of like this thing talk about moderating for people watching this is that motivation is very, very important. Because especially when you have so many things in life to read, everyone would like to read everyone all the time. That would be the best if you could handle the information. But there's a finite amount of effort one can give at any point, so you do need to have priorities. And so in her case, I did not actually hold up the Zaini enough. And that's where it can be very helpful to have other contextual data or even second opinions asking about stuff. Or a rip that bumps you from another area, because it gives you that motivation, that tickle to read again. Because the more you can read anything again and again, the chance of getting more depth of knowledge is always going to be there. And a lot of times that means getting their mojo more accurate. Even if you actually had the basic configuration already right, maybe you didn't riff them correctly. There's always some little correction there to be found. Anyway, her cheeks are longer than a Nizai, and the emoji you can see in both those is quite localized. That's polar values-based power, G in her case, as a Zaini. And the eyes have a dancing quality, but they also have a bit of a more of a calming, sleepy, cool, gauzy feel to them as compared to their Nizai relative.
They do pop out quite a bit too, but it's not the same, right, as it would be for an Nizai.
It's not the same level or
Yeah.
the brightness level.
Openness.
Yeah, the openness, the brightness level, and also how it competes is kind of, you're saying, Glenn, with the energy of like those cheeks, that sheerness of cheek and the poppy polarized mouth that kind of really grabs more. Although
Exactly.
he does have rather large eyes.
Yeah. She probably has a good knee, so
I would think so.
understandable.
Yeah. Okay, so was he down as Naiji or?
Gucci Mane, I think he was down as Nijai. So we can see, we've done what music artists of that.
Yeah.
Yep, we have.
Yeah.
Types of Vijay, Gucci.
But if there's anything in particular you ever feel like saying, please always do that. But yeah, if you want to, you can pass on ones we've already done that kind of correction. But if you see something you would say.
Yeah, anything that's worth noting, pointing out.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing worth noting. That hasn't already been said, I don't think. Is it Ben?
Okay. So this is another Vijay music artist. What was he down? What was he down as before?
Nijai.
Nijai?
Yeah.
Okay. So Vijay Hercules.
He reminds me of CeeLo Green a little bit, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is Zyvi Lamar Odom, who was previously read as a...
He was down for quite a while as a Zyvi. And then I kind of had a freak out with the Kardashian family because they're a whole hot mess to do as a case. And in that, I had him down as a Naiji. I switched him over to Naiji, and now he's back to where I believe is his original correct position. But I had a moment where I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. So if you can kind of talk about Naiji versus Zyvi, because he does have a lot of Nai, but.
Right. Yeah, I think Zyvi and Naiji, they're both very similar in the sense that they have the same powers and they're both subjective. So the shades can be quite tricky to distinguish between because usually Naiji have very strong Zai, and then I think Zyvi would probably, I'm guessing, have pretty strong Nai as well. And so getting those two compounds of the momentum and modulation powers mixed up every now and then can be a bit... can happen sometimes, and it can be tricky trying to distinguish what's going on. But Nai and Ji is not momentum for Lamar here. Whenever he uses those powers, they're actually going to be his minor and major modulation, as compared to his Zai and his V, which are going to be his major momentum and minor momentum. So, I mean, the emoting, it doesn't go up quite all the way into the brim line. It stops right at the mouth area, and it does, you can definitely see it has more of a localized quality. And what I'm also noticing is that he has more of like this very unflappable kind of like look to his entire face. He has the unifield face as well too, and his eyes have that gauziness to them, which you know, like it's a product of being a tower, so that the Zai or the Jai can be sort of like concealing the knee and the V. With him, it's a Zai and V, and yeah, I mean, I'm guessing, you know, like basketball is probably also one of those bubbles where the Naiji, the Zai V, the V Zai, the Ji Nai, they all kind of look kind of similar to one another as well, the kind of haircuts and stuff that they have. So trying to distinguish between, having to deal with all of these kinds of different variables can make it harder to distinguish between the two. And they probably all have to develop all of their powers in a sort of similar kind of manner. So that would probably add even more of a modifier. So I'm guessing there's probably a lot that went into, you know, why he could be confused as a Naiji. But yeah, he is. I think he's a Zyvi. And
yeah, definitely. There's that. Everything Glenn just says true. There's also a side note is that he was with a gatherer, a Vijay gatherer, and so sometimes, you know, you can look at the social alchemy and let that weigh on you as well. And I'll say one more thing before we move on is that in the athletics, there's quite a few Zyvi that have very nice development and good Nai that goes along with that. But I have to say, all the different sports I've seen, the basketball players tend to have the most of that kind of Nai, slinky, like broken rhythm. And also even the Ji, sort of like getting pumped up, talking trash, you know what I mean? Getting like, you know, passionate about it. Not that you don't see, for example, like on the volleyball courts. That's another one where Zyvi are big on. But the intensity, that heat tends to come at the in between plays. After a play, they will clap hands or roar like, yeah, nicely done. But it doesn't tend to come up in the normal play. There's a little more swaggering that kind of is done in the overall playing in basketball than some of the other Zyvi heavy sports.
Right. It's cool.
It's me. Okay, Naiji Connie Nielsen. With her, I had her down, I believe, as a Nizai due to the broadness of her cheeks, and she has a very kind of bright liveliness about her that I mistook for being objective, and even, I guess, adaptive too. But a couple things here is the eyes are piercing. They're not actually drinking in. She just has an up energy. She has a nice up energy, but it's interesting, she is piercing in both photos. What else? The cheeks are broader, but I do believe the eyes look hooded, that she's looking at me from like more of an inside perch position of her psyche. And then values-based, logic-based, she does actually have broad cheeks and she has a nice smooth skin, but I believe I am seeing flexations in those cheeks of kind of like going a little bit like what you call that? But they're, I won't say apple cheeks, but they're rosy. They're kind of like flexing up goodwill. A lot of times you'll see that with Jimojos that have that, there does become slight fine lining, you know, flexation lining there. She actually, I don't know if it's just her, you know, genetics, her, you know, ethnic background or her, you know, beauty regime, but she actually just has a rather smoother cheeks. But there are some like Gina we've seen, for example, like that, like, you know, say Miley Cyrus or whatever. The cheeks are rather smooth, so when they smile, it's kind of like a bit more smooth, but there can be smooth with flexations. So like up here, there are fine flexations like that right there. That's like a flexation plane.
Right, I see that. Interesting to note that the movie Gladiator, it has Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and her all as Naiji, so that's like a story update, which is pretty cool.
That's true. Okay, Naiji Kate Moss, was she down as Nisha?
No, yes, she was down as Nijai, and then if you want to talk about this, it's up to you. But her evolution, I had it down as Nijai, and then I thought maybe Gina, I started seeing, I think she is directive, but the wideness of her face,
cheekbone.
yeah, made me think objective. So basically, she was down as an Avram.
Yeah. Okay. So she started off as a Nijai. Well, you can see, so the eyes do jump out, like you would expect to see with a lead perception. And she does have I mean, she has expressive sort of eyes, like expressive, dreamy, and maybe she's not so much pushing like openly pushing like like other Naiji do, even other Naiji ladies. So it's more just like holding that pose.
Playing it more yin?
Yeah, playing more yin. So I could see how you could go with Nijai, and she does have both her upper and lower lips are pouty. So no, like her upper lip doesn't really stick out.
I do find her stare a little bit like unnerving though, in a Alpha way. It's kind of.
I guess just trying to talk, like trying to see like why it could have gone Nijai at first, but I agree with you. Looking at
I agree.
The eyes has an unnerving quality, like it's assessing. It's kind of like this one. It's a 1,000-yard stare, like, but it's assessing whatever is there, and kind of more like, I don't know if implacable is the right word, but that doesn't have like that receptivity that
it has more of an
the knee
intent.
has. Yeah.
Like they're like the attentiveness implies some intent at some point.
Yeah, evaluation, you know, like so that you're kind of taking it in and then sort of seeing like what does this mean as far as how things have to be handled, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all four of the hunters share that in some variation where they're looking. It's not direct action or movement of the body that's making a boundary, but why the eyes have a boundary just from looking is there's implied like
scheming
action.
Kind of quality.
Yeah, there's like agenda and like say articulate or action. It's plotting some future action because it is a directive.
And then why it
that assessing you were talking about.
Why it could have been read as Shinai again, you know, then start noting that unnerving quality of the the Nye, and also the having an agenda or an intent built in boundary setting. But the fact that she does have a little unusual in terms of her physiology and how wide her face is and how high her cheekbones are, which gives this appearance of wideness and a large just a large plane on the face.
And
which
the wide highness also makes almost he's going a little higher maybe than it is.
Yeah, but really it doesn't. You don't see fascia that's really emoting above this brim line. So Naiji it is.
Okay, Ben, she was one that I kept going back between the two Nages. And that was honestly on me. I just did not consider Jaini enough. When I did, it
Okay.
made sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
So this is Jaini Joyce Carol Oates. She was originally read back and forth between the two Nages. And I think I can see why she can be tricky, is because I noticed there's a lot of like wrinkling sort of under her eyes and sort of in the lower half of her face in such a way that it seems like there's more of a distinction. Like it can be easy to think of her as bifield for that reason. But it does look like her eyes are hooded, and at the same time I am seeing the Jaya unaware signal coming from her mouth, and I'm not seeing it stop anywhere. It seems to be going up consistently into the eyes. At the same time, I can still see the receptive knee open, natural approachability knee energy from her. But it definitely seems to be have a Jai hood film over it. It doesn't seem to be the dominant signal.
Yeah, and on that, the film, the kind of gauziness, in this case, the warm gauziness, one thing on her, and I want to make sure I say it in a way that's complimentary because she's actually very, very appealing, but not bug eyes, but protruded. Her physiology, she has protruded eyes. And that, I think, also can make them seem like they're popping more, you know what I mean? And that whole like bifield, unifield face kind of weighing. Because she does have a notion like a protruding of the eyes, making them come almost like forward a little bit.
Makes them seem kind of like they're objective and unhooded, but not really, right? Because
or at least that they somehow are more attention grabbing.
Yeah, right. I notice a lot towers can often have that sort of signal where you're sort of drawn to their eyes because they have the stimulus register as their tandem power, so it's still a very strong signal, and that can sort of draw a lot of attention to the eyes, it being like an objective power.
Yeah, especially if it's developed well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, that protruded eyes thing, because you're right, I have seen it with the Designy as well. There's a few of them that have where the eyes, like the little, like the socket area where the inside it's set forward a little bit. But that doesn't change the gauziness, but it is like a little more forward to one's attention.
But it's interesting. It has a distinct look to it, and it kind of looks. It makes it look distinctly towered. If you can, so it's cool. It's like it's like eyes peering through a tower, like.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
All right, this is Jivai Patrick Muldoon. I believe he was read as a Jinai.
Correct.
Right. So. Again, I mean, I think we covered this a little bit with Mario Lopez, but he has more of like he has the Vi instead of the Nai, the Vi and the Ni as compared to the Nai and the V. So naturally, his eyes have more of that pinpointed quality to them. I feel like he's got more of like a yang. His smile, like even though he does, have like a very charismatic smile, and all G-Mojos will have that charisma to their smile. Being G Alpha, you really notice that quite a bit as well, because their smiles tend to be very big. But there's also the Vi brings in more of like a more of a tighter quality in the overall expressions. The lines tend to be a little bit more tighter, I think, and the eyes have more of like a sharper kind of quality to them as well, because they're looking at like Vi is like very yang in the sense that is looking at specific details in the worldview and how those work. And that looks different as compared to Nai, which has more of like a holistic kind of interpretive quality to it, and there's more of a looseness in the smile, I think, when it goes up the face and even in the eyes as well. There's more of like a more of a yin kind of malleability, I guess you could say, like in the eyes and the way that they come across. So that's something that is one thing that you can use to distinguish between the two Jinai and the Jivai. And so yeah, I mean, Patrick here, he has all those qualities associated with the Vi. But yeah, I think probably has very good knees, which is why I think he might have been a bit tricky in trying to figure out what his mojo was.
Indeed. All the actors have that. Jini, Jody May. Okay, she was down as a Nijai, and that I think came from probably the fact that she starred. She's one of the people in Last Mohegans, and she was in a relationship with an actor who's an IG, and I think I just let that kind of make me think that. Also, in the movie, which is mainly what I knew her from until I saw some of her later work in The Purification, is she was like the Jini Madeline Stowe was her older sister, and she was the younger, more precocious, more kind of like always getting into mischief sister. And I think I just let that performance move me. But now looking without that, I can see, Avram got the dreamy expression and the receptiveness, but there's a more length in the overall face and energy, and the eyes have a bit more of that gauzy, more calming quality.
Mm.
Okay, Vijay Bramford Marsalis. What was he read as?
Nijai.
Vijay. Okay, so we've covered that one, I think.
You want to try the next one?
It's the same deal. So
Well,
yeah,
it's my turn now, but
yeah.
That's his brother. Who's going?
so Vijay went in Marcellus.
Jini Moby, who was, I think, previously read as a Nijai.
Actually, he had been going between Nijai and Naiji, kind of similar to other between the Nijez on him.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see why he could be considered either a Naiji or a Nijai, because he does have very much that sort of. He does seem to straddle on both of those, a lot of those qualities, but Jini is the actual answer, and I think it's a combination of the fact that he kind of looks subjective, but then at the same time he looks like he's an adaptive as well. And so you might feel like, oh, because he's a music artist, Naiji, Nijai males, they tend to be dominant in that area, so you might want to go between both of those. But hold on, what's secret option number 3, right? So yeah, he does have the elongation, but his eyes are definitely hooded, and they are also knee, so they're popping out in that knee kind of way, and they're very receptive, but they're not overtaking the emoting that's going on throughout his entire face in a unified fashion. And that smile is definitely unaware, and it does go up quite high on his face as well. And yeah, I think for the most part that's basically it. I mean,
I think covered good.
Nijai, Adrams can seem very mellow, and I tend to associate that kind of mellow quality with the Nijai. But yeah, Jini, I'm definitely beginning to see how they can be that way as well. And he definitely seems. I think that mellowness is coming from the fact that he's a Jai Alpha, and so naturally they're going to be very much at equilibrium and at peace and calm in that kind of like very warm kind of manner. So I thought he was a Nijai that had a lot of strong Jai, but he actually turns out to be a Jini with good strong Jai as well as good knee development as well. I'm pretty sure. So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Vijay Ethel Merman. I don't know if we've done the ladies today, but she's one that I had down, I think, as a Nijai or Nizai, whatever, something like that. I forget. But a Ni Alpha. So she has the perked up energy, and honestly, I just needed more experience with the Vijay ladies to be able to see it in like these kind of glossy black and whites, because with her, there's not a lot of media to work with. So most of the better stuff is black and white. But anyway, now that I'm more familiar with it, she has the more clear-eyed look to it. can be a little trickier sometimes because these older photos, they tend to, one, just have lower resolution, and the older ones, like the one on the right, they purposely gave this sort of soft lighting, which kind of homogenizes the face textures and eye textures a little bit.
Right. Old time film, picture shooting.
Exactly. But yeah, the face expression overall is a little more yang than a Nijai would be, but it is going into the cheeks, and the eyes have that clearness.
Yeah.
Vijay Laura Mavula, she was down as Nijai, right? Again,
Cover that.
similar.
You would add, please do.
Yeah, no, I guess her style also with her, like her style of music was a little more ethereal, which I think could be a red herring if you were to go off of just kind of that, because it's more indie. Yeah, more indie, whimsical, ethereal, as opposed to in your face pop. But yeah, if you look at the actual hues then and look at the yangness of the skin texture and the eyes, the laserness that gets you to Vijay.
Right.
Vijay, Aaron Neville.
Naiji Bahari Prinsloo. This is an interesting one because I was really sold on the idea of her being a Nijai as well. But I think she was also previous. Was she updated to a Jinai at some point, Coach?
Yeah, I first started saying like, wait a minute, she's actually directive, but then I had to get over. Yeah, so I had it on.
And I went the Kate Moss route.
Yeah, kind of another Kate Moss one. Does have very appealing energy and also more playful sometimes than some Naiji.
Yeah. And so and also I think just throw something a little bit in about me. I thought, because I think she's in a relationship with the what's his face, the Maroon 5 guy.
Adam.
Yeah. Then I thought, oh yeah, Nijez, that's what I'm seeing, right? And so that made me want to think that as well. But then when she was updated to a Jinai, then I was like, there's something going on here. I think there's something missing as far as like what I'm seeing. But then now knowing that she's actually an IG, it actually makes a lot of sense because she is a perception lead mojo, so she does have the Nez over the Jez, specifically the interpretive over Jez in that sense. But she's a subjective, and she's a Naiji that I think has a really interesting game, a lot more playful, a lot more just more fun, I guess you could say in that way, and that's why she comes across as that way as well. And I think the cheeks, again, the cheeks, they kind of seem wide to me, and she also has that kind of the cheeks, they seem wide. I think that kind of like makes you confused, and they makes you think, oh, this person's an objective mojo, and the eyes kind of pop out as well in a way, but they're popping out more of in a huntress kind of like piercing way. So it's that's interesting to find out that she's a Naiji. So yeah,
there's a bunch of, I'll say a bunch, but there's a fair amount of Naiji models that have this look. There's her, there's Kate Moss, there's Olivia Wilde, there's Jessica Biel.
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? They do have these very wide, flat cheeks, which I guess
makes it
prized.
And also like the fact that she has like a small relative to the rest of her face, like nose, like a little button nose. I don't know. Somehow that reminded me of like something I would see in a Jazz Gatherer, like that. Also, I think kind of that and the larger face frame and high cheekbones.
Yeah, but she does have those like finer features, like the chin kind of comes in a little bit there. And yeah, I think the nose kind of looks a little bit like that as well as the mouth and everything. The features, they all seem kind of a little bit more like finer in a sense. So yeah, but her game is, I think, very well developed in that she has a lot of she has good use of her G and good use of her V, which makes her come across differently than I think, and makes it harder to read her, I guess, in that way.
Yeah.
You also see, one thing that helped me here is once I realized she was directive, is the expression she's making, like really see on the left there. She's kind of like, and she's doing a good job. She's making an effective G expression, but her eyes are like doing their own thing. They're almost like looking, it's like her face is doing it, but her eyes are looking at the
She kind of seems like she's trying to approximate like a Jai on a wearmouth there. I think a little bit.
She's like doing a move, and then her nai is kind of noting how this is going down.
Right. It's kind of like very interesting, the difference. Like, my mouth is trying to say unaware, but I'm watching you, and I know exactly what's going on, that kind of thing.
I'm like, I'm awarely noting how you're reacting to my pretend unaware mouth.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Pete Rose, Zevi Pete Rose. He was down as a Xeni. I didn't have as much experience as Zevi way back in the day when I read him, but now having gotten more into it, the practicals are far more prevalent in baseball and also in soccer and in racing. So in those sports, the Xeni does not actually show up very much. It is the Zevi. I'm not sure why that is. But anyway, I became more familiar with it. So you can see here, he's got the pilot face, the helmet bracing, localized emoting, but the tightness in the eyes. Both here when he's more squinting on the left and when he actually has his knee more perked up in the right picture there. Still, it has much more of this concrete, kind of locked in, dialed in heaviness to the eye area, more yang.
Yeah, that would have been tricky to distinguish between, but very good. I like that. Yeah.
Zevi Amy Purdy.
Had down to Vizai, the other operac.
Okay.
She's you can see why I might go there.
Yeah.
In general, she's kind of real upbeat.
Yeah, spunky, upbeat. So both the Vizai and Zevi, they're operacs, so they're objective, literal, and logic based, and so yeah, the fact that Amy Purdy is a riff of Zevi that is more spunky and upbeat and playful could lead you to go the route of the Vizai, like a Lindsey Vonn kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at it closely, her eyes don't have give, like they're and they have intent again. It has a focused quality to it that the laser eyes doesn't, and not receptive, not in that way, not primarily in the way a Vizai would have it. And then the mouth, there's more energy in the lower lip here than the upper lip. That you would see.
I'm also really noticing the anvil as compared to sort of like the roundish quality that a gatherer can sometimes have, the wideness in the cheeks. I mean, she has wideness in the cheeks too, but it's I definitely see the unifield anvil quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pilot face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another Vijay, music artist, thought it might be a Nijai, but it's not. You can see the clear eyes, although a healthy amount of nai.
Just skip them.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Whose go was it? I thought it was
It was an.
Oh, that was actually mine. So
okay, my bad.
Vijay Gregor.
It
reminds me of a Ruben, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Ruben, the singer, Ruben Studdard.
Ruben Studdard.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I just read off that one,
Okay,
but I can
cool.
do this one as well if you want.
That's fine.
Glenn can have the above one because I did the one previous to it.
Cool.
So last one would have been Glenn's, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, Sai, not really much to say here. It's very interesting. I kind of like the idea of him being a Nijai, but finding out that he's in Vijay is also cool and interesting. It kind of makes sense in a lot of ways, too.
It does, and it expanded my appreciation of them. All right, this one was hard for me to get to. Vijay, Raekwon, I love Wu-Tang Clan, and I still love them now. Now this helps because my love for Wu-Tang, I now realize, has a ton of Vijay love in there. So love, Vijay, love. Same thing as always. Very similar traits on the Jez Gather with the apple cheeks and whatnot, but the eye clarity. All right, Gian Lee's taking a quick break here. So Ben, go ahead and take this one.
Oh, John's taking a break. Okay. Vijay Tito Puente.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
interesting.
not a lot to say there necessarily unless you see something. Glenn, here's a biggie.
Okay, so Vijay Luciano Pavarotti. So he's one of the tenors, one of the three tenors that are famously known. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's quite the quasi death, I think. Quasi.
But now we're kind of dialing in more on the Vijay. He's pretty classic.
He is. He is. I can definitely see how Vijay is what he is. The jazz gatherers, they're both very, very similar in a lot of ways as far as how they come out, but being different, powers being used there, the V and I and the Ni and the Vi, that is a distinct difference. And so he has more of like that. He has a more taut kind of like skin, I guess you could say, and as compared to like the more loosey yin kind of skin that a Ni alpha would have, or the Ni user. And
a word I think I might like, because you used one half already, I liked it, the vibratory. They have here's my wording for it. Plump can sometimes mean heaviness.
No, I like that. I was actually considering plump in my head.
I know, and I was saying, what's the better word? Soft. It's a soft suppleness. Not soft, smooth. It's a smooth suppleness the V has, the gatherers, as compared to the vibratory, that vibratory quality that the Ni ones have.
Yeah, there's like a
it's still receptive.
There's more of like a robustness, I think, in a certain sense with the V, the skin quality. It has that kind of qualia to it. It just feels like if you touch that, it's like touching a balloon that's been filled very, like tightly in a way. Like it has that kind of like strength to it. So, and also the eyes, they have more of like that. They're receptive as they would have been with the Nijai as well, but they have more of like the laser-like quality, the more yangness in that sense, as compared to the more open kind of like taking in lots of abstractions quality that the Ni would have. They're not dancing; they're lasers. So yeah, they're clear in that way. And
those are three. Yeah, those three things I tend to notice the most. There's some other subtle ones, but yeah, the eye clarity, that skin qualia you talked about, and then the third one is on the left. The difference when they narrow the eyes. When the Ni narrow their eyes, they get more like pinpointed, more, and it can be in a cool way, more like tight. The V alpha get more sly, more slick looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because that's exactly what I'm seeing there in that picture. Because he's sort of like he's drifting off with his Ni, but sort of like let me think about this in this sort of like cunning kind of way, which is interesting. Yeah.
This is Vijay, Little Richard. Pretty straightforward. I mean, those are bam. That's laser eyes, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Vijay Rick Ross.
Now here's a tough one. So I don't want you to take this one, Jilene. I did have him down as a Nijai for a little bit, but that was my first one for the longer time was actually Naiji because of how much Nai he has.
Yeah.
And it's whole kind of grim, intimidating thing.
Yeah, so it goes along more with like I think the affectation of the rap culture.
Yeah, it's heavy kind of disposition.
Or like sort of image. So like show no weakness, be cunning and predatory. Yeah, exactly. So he has more Nai than, and you see it particularly here on the right hand side. Than some other Vijay do. Yeah, it looks more haunted, true. But I think at the end of the day, and also looks perceptionally, so more energy in his eyes. But you can see here even on both pictures, like the lower lip has more energy. Also, the eyes are.
They're not hunting.
Yeah, they're not hunting. Yeah, he has more Nai activated here on the right hand side, but still not hunting. It's receptive. It's kind of assessing, waiting to see what's gonna come his way, but not not with an already intent built into it.
He's a gatherer. It's like he's a gatherer who's gathering to use. He's like a gatherer user.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
What was that? Gathering user?
Gatherer user, like so already set to receive, but and how he can make use of that.
Work an angle with it.
Work an angle with it.
Right.
Yeah, that comes with the particular riff of Nai heavy.
Vijay.
Yeah.
Vijay, Darius Rucker.
Previously read as Nijai, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Mhm.
So another one of those.
Oh yeah, we have to make sure we say that every time because.
Right, Jaivi Shannon Sossaman. So I think she was previously read as either a Jaini or Nizai.
Jaime. Right.
Jaini, okay. So that's interesting. Yeah, so she's sort of like Gilda Radner in a way. Kind of riffs of me a little bit of her, I think. But yeah, she's.
Her, I think, is a Nai Z. Nai Z.
Oh, never mind then. I'm thinking about somebody else.
Someone else.
Or maybe, yeah. But yeah, actually, oh yeah, so she was from that movie with A Knight's Tale or whatever, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of made me want to think, like maybe that was a Naiji and a Jaini, but it's actually Naiji and Jaivi. But yeah, she actually does kind of riff a little bit of like Angelina Jolie, I think maybe somewhat.
Yeah.
That kept bothering me.
And Winona Ryder a little bit.
Winona Ryder, I think that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, that's who I was thinking. Not Gilda Radner. I think I got their names confused. Yeah, so she has more of that. Again, she has the V and the Ni as compared to the Ni and the Vi. So her skin has more of that sort of like soft, supple quality to it, as compared to the vibratory quality that the Ni brings. And she's got cunning to her that you can see. I think a little bit more maybe in the picture on the left. She's got a little bit more of like 1,000-yard stare kind of thing going on. But the V is definitely tandem, and it's kind of like she's looking through the V, which is her minor momentum, with her Ni. So she is kind of like going, she is modulating quite a bit there, but it kind of looks a little bit spooky, but it is like, it's minor modulation Ni, not so much minor modulation of the Vi, where that would look a little bit more, tighter in the eye area, and she would have more of that sort of like yangness with the Vi. Yeah, those are just some things I noticed.
Nice. Okay, Naiji Laura Stone. I believe I had her down as a Genii, and it's because she had the wider cheeks.
And the lips also.
And also voluptuous lips, yeah. But I believe those eyes are looking out to keep seeming behind the emoting.
Yeah, you got to watch out for these Naiji women with the more lionic kind of looking faces.
Yeah. And in certain professions, particularly modeling, that's kind of prized. So I have to kind of factor that in. But that's affecting.
Even the way she does her hair kind of looks a little bit lionic in a way too.
It does. You're right. Going over that mane.
Yeah. Okay, Nizai Kevin Smith. Was he down as Nizai or Naishi? Nizai Kevin Smith?
He was down, I believe, as Naizi.
Okay, Naizi. Okay, interesting. So, okay, so he started off as Nizez already. So, but Naizi, the directive, one of the pairing. But so one perception lead and then logic based. And dreamy, so interpretive. But when you look at it closely, you can see his eyes again. They're receptive, they're playful, and his expressions are aware. He knows what he's trying to do, like what kind of emotions he wants to engender in the audience. When he emotes. That comes from the G. Otherwise, he's unflappable, as you can see that here on the left-hand side.
This one, Ben, I had him as a Jaini.
Okay.
And
so this is
what you probably can't see it here as much, but when he talks, he has this real heaviness to it.
All right, yeah, Bueller.
And so I know that there's also Cool Tower coming, but kind of like the heaviness of it and the way he used it, it just reminded me of the way Jai towers tend to do it, but it wasn't. It's actually a Zai use that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is Zaini Ben Stein. I can definitely see how he could be read as Jaini, just because, especially looking at the picture on the right, something about how he's like squinting his eyes and kind of the activation of his emotive power of Xi, the way he's doing it, and the combination of the crinkling in the eyes, the way that looks. I've seen Zhai Alpha perform that maneuver a lot, and it reminds me of that. But Zaini can do a similar maneuver as well, where the Xi is activated. You can see they're definitely being emotionally moved, but the emoting itself still isn't going above the localized lip line. So up above into the eyes, the way those sort of pieces of the tower are moving are actually is actually Zai as opposed to Zhai. As well as in the eyes in particular, you can see the knee as well as the Vi concern. It seems to be where the seems to be the maneuver he's doing right now on the picture on the right. And the picture on the left, that looks a bit more classically calming, tower-like. I could still see how he could be seen as Zhai Alpha, but I definitely see the cool, unflappable steeliness there, and the hooded energy and the knee beneath.
One thing I also throw in there too, he has that classic elongation of the tower and that kind of dreamy elongation of a Nez tower, but he's a little more ovally, a little more softer, rounded lines, which I tend to associate with, Jez, but it doesn't have to always be.
Right, and it just makes so much more sense now. I can really see how he's a Zaini as compared to a Zhaini. He kind of a little bit riffs of Demas in a way, I think. So I'm noticing certain things, little tidbit things that just seem to be like, yeah, I can see a little bit of a crossover there.
A little bit, yeah. And some things, like the way he is in repose, not so much the physiology or when he's more activated, but some of the look when he's in repose.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, this is mine. Okay, so Jivi Jason Taylor. He was previously at G9. Yeah, I mean, if I was talking about Nai and V and versus Vi and Ni before, I mean, it just makes like it's really notable here. You can totally see the eyes. They just have that sort of very tighter, much more heavier kind of quality to them. Much more like there's like a worldview there that has like a lot of details in it. And you can definitely see in both pictures that he has that quality to him. The smile, even though it is going all the way up, it has more of that sort of like tighter quality to it. Like it has more of a yangness to it. And yeah, I mean, it just makes so much sense that he's a G Vi. And yeah.
Yeah, getting more into the fitness and the soap operas. He was like, oh goodness, he's actually pretty classic.
Yeah.
Next is same thing. Jivi, Michael Shanks, actor, same kind of thing, tighter in the eyes, but in good knee.
Yeah, he's actually surprising. I really was convinced he was a Shinai, but yeah, okay, that's cool.
But he has a soap opera leading man riff.
Yeah, he does.
That's a lot of knee, I think.
Where is he from?
I'm sure, but
I knew Stargate?
I knew him from a sci-fi show, which is why I was like a little surprised because there aren't as many of them.
Was it Stargate, I think?
I think it might have been one of Stargates, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
That's why I think it surprised me as well, too.
Okay, and here we have the Vijay we mentioned a little bit ago as someone else, Ruben Studdard. He has been read as Nijai. Again, both of them, both the Nijai and Vijay have a quality that he has, like a playfulness, being the Jez gatherers, but his eyes.
Apple cheeks.
Yeah, he's got, and the apple cheeks, but he's got the laser and Nai cunning. Combo, as opposed to the dancing and then prepared, sort of concerned dichotomy.
So we kind of anticipated that he was a Vijay, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. The riff was like immediately right there. So.
Ben, I believe he was down as a Naiji.
Okay, cool. So this is Jai v. Rafael Sadiq. Okay, so I can definitely see that he looks subjective. So I mean, that's definitely something that Naiji and Jai V share. I also know that Naiji can very typically have a good amount of Zai development, can sort of have energy that's more, it's a little more like faux calming. So when you look at an actual Jai V, it can be it's definitely very understandable how one could confuse an IG for a Jai V in that way. I also see that he's values based. His emoting, it definitely does seem unaware though, and I am noticing a strong signal of that throughout his whole face. It looks quite unifield to me. It seems like that is the dominant signal. And the eyes are not what immediately pop out to me, but when I do look into the eyes, I don't see like a strong cunning hunter signal. Although notably he is a Jai V, so he definitely does still have Nai and have a bit of that in the eyes, just not as the dominant signal and not as strongly and natively.
He reminds me a little bit of Arsenio Hall as well as Pharrell Williams. Riffs a little bit of those two.
It reminds me of Pharrell, and also there was someone we saw perform recently in Luke Cage.
Yeah, but I don't think he's part of the list yet.
No, he's not. He's not. But we noted he was a Jai V. Okay, Glenn.
So it's mine, right? Okay. So this is Vaiji Michael Shermer. So yeah, I think he was previously read as a Nai Z or maybe Nai G.
Naiji actually and Nijai. I've gone between the Jez and them as well. I honestly, not realizing how progressive, and I knew it conceptually, but he's one of the most kind of progressive and sort of anti-traditional faith thinking players out there.
Oh, okay. So this is not the guy from Game of Thrones, right? No, I'm thinking about somebody else. Okay, no. So he's a Vaiji. I'm not familiar with him so much. But as compared to the Nijez,
like Skeptic Society, which is about strong reasoning and not buying into like faith.
Right. I understand the general bubble. I just never seen him as a figure in it. So, but yeah, it's interesting. But Naiji versus Nijai, I can definitely see the Naiji angle a lot more because I feel like the Jez hunter's quality seems to stick out quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, like there's been quite a few, I think, Nijai that have been like Sam Harris. He was also considered Nijai 1.2. So
Michael Shermer.
Yeah, it's interesting because now he's Vaiji, so it's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, again, the same sort of thing happening here with Michael here. So he has more of that Vi as compared to the Nai, and the Ni is actually his polar power. So I'm guessing he probably has quite a bit of Nez development, not quite a bit of Ni development, probably, which is why he was confused as a Nejez. But yeah, the smile, he's got more. Again, the Vi adds a little bit more of a tighter quality to the smile. It's even more so with the Vi G as compared to the G Vi, because they have Vi as their source, so it's more of like a distinct signal to their smile, and their smile is also at the same time not going up as quite as high, so it's playing more. It's the dominant signal is obviously going to be the Vi, and the G comes in after, and so the eyes pop out. I think that's pretty obvious though, but yeah, I mean Vi G, it makes sense. Yeah,
it was mainly, I think, just sort of like his bubble position, and then also the amount of knee he had. Those are two that kind of made the challenge for me.
Yeah,
I think he covered as well. Vijay Michael Tate kind of covered this kind of thing, so pretty classic now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Vijay Notorious B.I.G. Was he down as Naiji?
Naiji, so you kind of covered him a bit when you did.
Yeah, the other guy who had the gangster rapper sort of riff going on, or affectation.
Rick Ross, right? A little bit. I think.
Yeah, Rick Ross.
Okay. What was she read as, Coach?
She was down as Vijay.
Okay. So this is Jai V,
Yeah.
Frankie Sanford. She was initially read as Vijay, and that definitely makes a lot of sense. Vijay in music are notorious for having a lot of Nai development. They also have a lot of Jai development as well. So that can make them very tricky, distinguishing between the Jai V and the Vijay, because you have all these Vijay who naturally have good subjective power development. But I definitely do see the unifield energy here. I do see the Jai going throughout the whole face, and I don't see the her energy, like I see, I guess a little bit of fleshiness, I guess, but it's not really the same kind of fleshiness. It doesn't feel like it's the dominant signal I'm getting from her. I definitely am picking much more on the more like languid, shy energy from her first.
She also has the finer features and the elongation too, I'm noticing.
Yeah, her elongation just wasn't quite as long as some we've seen, but you're right, it's definitely there. And the other thing with her, for me, was the way she styles her makeup. She, you could kind of play up different parts of your face. A lot of times they play up all the parts, but she definitely is kind of going rather neutral in the way she did her makeup on the cheeks, nose, and down, the chin area too. But the eyes,
she makes them stand out.
You see how much makeup she applies there compared to the rest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know,
I think the way she does her hair too, it kind of makes you look at that part of her face a little bit more.
Yeah.
Attention grabbing crown.
He was down as a Genii.
Whose turn is it?
Maybe Glenn.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah. I'm getting all the G Vi, all the Vi G. Okay. So again, I feel like it seems like it's fairly.
Did we already do this bubble? NFL GVI? It was Genii? I think so. So you don't have to just if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just say a few words in that. Yeah, G Vi makes a lot of sense. The Vi again stands out quite a bit. He seems actually quite a bit like a bodybuilder riff in a way.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that sort of does kind of stick out now a lot more as compared to like a Genii. It's interesting noticing the difference between the Genii and the G-Vi, but the G-Vi definitely have more of like this sort of like, the Vi. It adds a different kind of quality to the overall physiological cues. Gives it more of that. It's hard to describe. It's ineffable. It's qualia. So I mean, we try, right?
And that's why we're here. A lot of times it's sort of like at some point you're like, I mean, we could say prepared eyes versus cunning eyes. But at the end of the day, it's like those eyes are more yang. They are.
Yeah. And the smile much more just like more yang, much more tight, much more, and even the chin as well as the jaw. It just has all of those qualities to it. Like even in the picture on the right, you can see the way that the cheeks, they kind of have this sort of like dimpley area. I feel like that's something that maybe you would see more with the Vi Mojo.
There's a different tightness level. You're right. And
there is something there. Yeah.
Those observing it, when Glenn says that they're a lot different, he's meaning that in a certain context. For those who are unfamiliar with Mojo reading, cues could be subtle in general. For those who are not necessarily specifically familiar with G alpha, they may note, wow, the G-Vi and Genii look a lot alike, and they do. So what Glenn is mentioning is, considering how much of them looks alike, there's these certain areas within that are way different. And so within the context of their G alpha, then the differences between them become quite dramatic.
Right.
That's kind of cool. You can kind of see like the human design, because you like real quick here. It's like that is without a doubt G helmet of Karen. You know what I mean? But there's other Genii, for example. You're like, that is helmet of Karen, and you can see definitely warm helmet of Karen. But then those little variables are they're apart, but that part is really dramatic, and there's like they don't cross over. Whatever's going on with the pallor or that tautness of the skin, the Genii are not experiencing that on their helmet of Karen. Vice versa.
Yeah, they're both Lionic, but the Genii has more of like a fuller kind of. The Ni adds this more universal quality to them, more like a holistic kind of way in which their energy comes out. With the V also being, I feel like, has that quality to it. The G-Vi, they have more of the Vi, so that brings more of like the denser, detailed quality with the Ni kind of coming out to bring in more of like a buoyancy, which is, I mean, it's like you're just saying the powers. You're just saying G-Vi and Ni and then G-Ni V. But no, it actually does. You can see the way in which they come out.
I'm curious how Jarlene's taken this, because you kind of stimulated me something there you said, Glenn, which is that the warm helmet of Caring from a Genii, I do feel like I'm being hit full helmet, but it's a less physical hit. with the Jivai, I
Or
really,
concrete.
I
Yeah.
really feel like the physicality of their face. What have you, Charlie? What do you notice? Pretty much that.
Same. Yeah. I mean,
I noticed that the. Oh, sorry. I'll let Jolene finish.
that's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I noticed that the Dur senses, they have this sort of like almost concrete, almost chiseled look to their face compared to
Yeah,
the
that's a good way to put it.
Durdogs.
Chiseled.
You know, it's like it's chiseled not in like a Zez way, but in like a Vi, like
Not angular.
yeah, but in like a Vi, like their face was like etched in with a pencil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the details are just like nicely, like taken
Yeah.
in, and like they're like really sketched out in a way that really defines every little bit. Yeah, definition.
Or like carved. You know,
Carved.
like
Yeah,
with a like
yeah.
like a statue. You know, so
Yeah, I get it.
Sure. All right. Is this me? Okay, so Naiji Olivia Wilde, I kind of recovered this. I had it down as Naiji originally for the longest time, but then I kind of freaked out when I started seeing how many Ji and I were in modeling. But no, she's a broad-faced Naiji.
Back to your proper place now.
Naiji Electra Weidman.
Zaini.
She was a Zaini. Okay, so she has, well, she has sort of a, okay, so she's has a playful demeanor, like you can see that here on the right-hand side. She also has a chiseled sort of face, like in a Zez, like that you can see in certain Zaini. But things you'll notice here is flexations in her cheeks. Like she does, like when she does inflappable, when she uses using her Zai, like you don't, and she has very smooth skin, so you might not immediately see the fascia there, like the patterns that the fascia has created over time. She has very smooth skin, porcelain skin, but you can see here on the right-hand side when she's emoting that the fascia is activated above the midline, so it's not localized just around the mouth area. And also the eyes, even though she has a playful demeanor, the eyes are cunning, and they have that agenda already set there, as opposed to drinking in that the Zaini would have.
It's just something to say about this, about the towers and the hunters. The towers, they definitely have. Hold on, I'm hearing a lot of.
I think it's coming from Central.
Yeah, but basically the okay, there it's gone. The towers, they have elongation more so than I think the hunters do. I feel like that's something because the unifield face kind of brings that to their all the tower mojos in general. And also, I think she kind of riffs a little bit of like Keira Knightley, who I think has more of like those smaller, even featured kind of qualities to her, and more fox-like. Yeah, like that's the term that I think. Yeah.
That's good.
Cool. So, oh wait, it's Coach's turn.
Okay, so she was a tough one. I actually had her down at one point as a.
Didn't I say?
Oh yes, so it's
didn't
Ben's
I
up.
go?
Oh, I was confused. I thought Glenn just went.
Glenn had just added some on as well.
My bad. My bad. So it is my
Sorry.
turn. Like first, I was like, it's my turn. Then I was like, but Glenn just went, so I'm like, it's Coach. But then, okay, that makes sense. Anyway,
This is a tricky one. She was actually down as a knee shy back in the day.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
Because of how round her face is and how big her eyes.
Yeah. So she's got
okay. Not in a good way.
So that makes sense. All right. So Zaini Gemma Ward. So yeah, I can definitely see why she was read as a Nijai. She definitely has she's a Zaini with an unusually round, sort of wide-looking face. But there are Zaini that do have those physical features. And I noticed that when I look at, for example, the picture on the right, there's definitely a very, like, even though the physicality is rather roundish, it's also very flat, at least on the front. It looks like a very smooth, flat surface all the way down. And that corresponds with the unflappable signal I'm getting from her. And also the mouth, it definitely is still localized. And the eyes, yeah, I mean, they're kind of far apart, but they definitely still look hooded. And they don't seem like they're the dominant feature of her face.
Smile almost looks faux unaware, but it's actually localized G.
Yeah, I notice a lot of the models do that. They kind of try to give off a more yin signal with their G if they are G users.
She was down as a Nijai.
Okay, so she's from okay.
This is actually not uncommon. Maya and I have been looking at the authors a bit. There's actually quite a few Xeni female authors, and not just in nonfiction, but in fiction as well. Some very kind of like humorous and heart, warming and wrenching material.
All right. So I'm not familiar with her exactly in her case, but I can definitely see some things I'm noticing with her. This is Xeni Helen Fielding. She was previously read as a Nisha, as Coach said. One thing I'm noticing is that she doesn't have that sort of openness to her eyes like the way a Nijai would, the receptivity that I think comes with all adaptives and gatherers especially. She definitely seems to be more naturally or natively pushing out into the environment with her dynamics, with specifically her Z. And I think she probably does have quite a strong Zhai because her smile does look very it looks like it's very developed. I'm guessing based on what you're saying, Coach, as well. Like she has she has those qualities about her. So it definitely, I feel like I'm seeing that as far as like the pictures. And yeah, I mean, she has the full face quality as well. And unlike a gatherer though, her neutralizing is going all the way throughout her entire face, and she has the anvil helmet of bracing all the way throughout, as compared to the bifield face that a Nijai would normally have. The eyes, they don't pop out as much as the mouth does, and yeah, she just overall has that. Yeah, like I can see the Nai in the eyes, definitely for sure. She's kind of piercing through, looking through things as compared to like the openness and the wonder that the knee kind of brings with it. Not that Nai can't have wonder to it, but it's sort of something that. Wonder kind of like you're sort of receiving patterns and abstractions as compared to the cunningness of Nai, which is sort of more planning and plotting and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely seeing more of the plotting quality with her, and yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it.
Nice. All right, this will be our last round here. Okay, Naiji Catriona Balf. She's pretty straightforward. She is one of the ones that can't see as much in the left picture, maybe more on the right. For a little bit, I was wondering if she might be an Ram, a Nijai or a Jinai because of the wideness of her face. But no, she is directive, and those eyes, I believe, are bifield to what's going on with the rest of the face. Oh, snap!
Barry White, Bijai Barry White. Was he down as a Nijai?
Nijai, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, that. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just gatherer.
Voice of lovin'.
Oh my goodness! How many lives have been birthed thanks this man's music?
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
He has the laser Nai.
And I think when he sings, you could definitely hear it, and the more V in the voice as well. It brings that sort of like. I guess it's been described as like nasally, but I feel like it's a little bit more of like a heavy reality kind of like. There's something about it, like it combines with the Zhai very well to create a sort of sound, a distinct kind of like, yeah. All right, Ben, I think it's you.
Oh, yeah. So this is Vijay Timbaland. I know it's like picture on the right. He's sort of like. I mean, his head is more to the right, and then his eyes are more to the left, so he's kind of more like inside right now, kind of fish underwater a little bit. But he's also looking at you, so it's an interesting look.
But yeah, pretty classic there.
Yeah.
Hip hop, and same thing here. Vijay Exhibit.
Oh wow, this is cool. So I was really actually sold on the idea of him being, I believe, a Durham. But yeah, Vijay. Yeah, it's like now I'm able to now that I know what his emoji really is, a lot of things are coming out that I didn't see before. Like his face on the picture on the left, it definitely seems a lot more like a gatherer. Like I'm seeing the chipmunky quality or the apple-like quality in the cheeks for sure, and the Byfield face. Yeah, that makes sense too. The more suppleness in the skin, the soft suppleness. Wow, that's just cool to know, I think, yeah. So yeah, Exhibit is a Vijay, people.
This is our crossover there. Like in movies and TV, there's this riff of Nijai, for example, particularly the males, where they play like police chiefs and mobsters, you know what I mean? And there seems to be some correlation with Nijai, where there's like a riff of them that play like, you know, street hustler, you know, kind of thing. Interesting.
Uh-huh. That's interesting.
Right.
That's cool.
That will do us for today. Kind of.
I already know what he is. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, there's quite a few of this riff. I was like,
that's interesting. I never would have thought that rap would have so many Vijay in it.
I know.
Or music artists in general.
But yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's like there's so much like bling. There's so much bling in rap. I don't know. I think
it makes a lot more sense in the rear view, but going forward, we really know what to look for. And it's one of those things that happens all the time where I forget exactly what it was, but different bubbles will open you up to something, kind of like, oh, that's a Vijay. And you're like, wait a minute, if that's Vijay, then you jump over to rap. And you're like, oh, I never looked at it with these eyes. And it changes everything. It's very exciting.
Yeah, that's the great thing about getting updates.
Sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and sign off real quick here. And we'll talk for a second here, guys.
Bye, world.
Bye, world.